"You're not my daughter. You're my biggest mistake." Those were the words my father greeted me with every family dinner for 15 years. But when his kidneys failed and he needed a transplant, suddenly I became useful. "Get tested immediately," he commanded. "It's the least a mistake like you can do to pay rent." What he didn't expect was for the DNA test to reveal not just that I couldn't donate, but that his precious golden child son wasn't his either. 28 years of lies unraveled in a single medical report. I am Kiara Teller, 32 years old, and this is the story of how a kidney transplant exposed the biggest betrayal in our family's history and finally gave me the freedom to walk away. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. The Thanksgiving dinner of 2023 should have been a celebration. My father, Robert Teller, had just closed another multi-million-dollar real estate deal, and he'd gathered the entire family at his $3.5 million mansion in Cherry Hills to bask in his success. The dining room chandelier, a $50,000 Baccarat crystal piece he loved mentioning, cast perfect light on the scene he'd orchestrated. "Marcus just secured the Riverside development contract," my father announced, raising his wine glass toward my older brother. $8 million. That's what a real teller accomplishes. The extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, all murmured their congratulations. Marcus, 3 years my senior at 35, accepted the praise with his trademark smirk. He'd been groomed since birth to be the heir to Teller Holdings, and he wore that destiny like a designer suit. Meanwhile, my father's eyes found me at the far end of the table. "Kiara here is still pushing papers at that hospital. What is it you do again? Data entry?" "Data analysis, Dad. I'm a senior analyst at Denver Medical Center." The words came out steady, practiced. I'd learned long ago that showing emotion only made things worse. "Same thing. Glorified secretary work." He turned back to Marcus. "Your brother just bought his second investment property. What have you bought lately, Kiara? Another second-hand Honda?" My mother, Helen, studied her plate intensely. She never defended me, not once in 15 years. The cousins exchanged uncomfortable glances. Only Grandma Margaret, my father's mother, met my eyes with something like sympathy from her wheelchair at the table's corner. I held my master's degree from Johns Hopkins in my mind like armor. He didn't know about it. He'd never asked. The word mistake had followed me like a shadow since I was 17. I remember the exact moment it started, December 15th, 2008, my high school's honor roll ceremony. I'd just received an award for perfect attendance and a 4.0 GPA. Walking off that stage, diploma in hand, I'd felt proud. Maybe this time, I thought, maybe this would be enough. I found my parents in the parking lot. My father was on his phone, closing some deal. When he hung up, I showed him the award. "Dad, look! I made valedictorian for next semester's lineup." He glanced at the certificate for exactly 2 seconds. "Marcus was valedictorian and captain of the lacrosse team. You're just, well, we can't all be Marcus." Then turning to my mother, he said the words that would define the next 15 years. "Should have stopped at one kid. This one's just a mistake that keeps costing money." My mother flinched but said nothing. She never did. The contrast in our treatment was surgical in its precision. For Marcus's 18th birthday, he received a Porsche 911 Turbo. For mine, I got a card with a $50 Amazon gift card and a reminder that adults pay their own way. Marcus's college tuition at Harvard Business School, paid in full, plus a monthly allowance of $5,000. My education? State school is good enough for you. Take out loans like normal people. So I did. I worked 3 jobs through undergrad at CU Denver. When I got accepted to Johns Hopkins for my master's in health data analytics, I didn't even tell them. What was the point? I funded it through scholarships and more loans, $127,000 in total debt that I'm still paying off. The emails were worse than the verbal dismissals. December 3rd, 2023, just weeks before that Thanksgiving dinner, I'd received another one. "Kiara, Saw on LinkedIn you're still at the same position. 3 years, no promotion? Stop embarrassing the family name. At least update your profile to say administrative assistant instead of analyst. More honest. Robert Teller. I screenshot every email, 327 of them over 10 years, all saved in a folder labeled evidence. I didn't know what I was gathering evidence for, maybe just proof that I wasn't imagining it all. January 15th, 2024, 6:47 a.m. My phone rang with my mother's ringtone. A generic iPhone chime I'd never bothered to personalize. She only called when my father told her to. Kiara, you need to know something. Her voice was strained, careful. Your father, he's sick. His kidneys are failing. I sat up in my downtown Denver apartment, still groggy. What do you mean, failing? Stage 4 chronic kidney disease. The doctors say he has maybe 3 months before he'll need dialysis or, she paused, or a transplant. He's been hiding it for months, but yesterday he collapsed at the office. Marcus had to call an ambulance. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man who'd spent decades telling me I was worthless now faced his own mortality. I waited for some feeling, satisfaction maybe, or concern. Instead, I felt nothing. The doctors at Presbyterian ran all the tests, she continued. His blood type is O negative, which makes finding a donor harder. They've put him on the transplant list, but the wait is typically 18 months. He doesn't have that long. What about Marcus? I asked, already knowing the answer. Marcus got tested immediately, of course, but her voice dropped. He's not compatible. Different blood type entirely. Your father was furious, called him useless for the first time in his life. I almost laughed. One medical test and suddenly the golden child wasn't so golden. The thing is, my mother continued, and I could hear her choosing her words carefully, you have the same blood type as your father. At least, that's what your medical records from childhood show. O negative, just like him. The silence stretched between us. I knew what was coming. He wants to see you tomorrow, alone. Mom, I haven't been invited to his office in 5 years. I know. Her voice was barely a whisper now. But he's desperate, Kiara. I've never seen him like this. He actually used the word please yesterday. Can you imagine? Robert Teller saying please? I could not, in fact, imagine it. Which is probably why I agreed to go. That, and a morbid curiosity about what desperation looked like on a man who'd never experienced it. Fine. What time? 10 a.m. his office. Kiara. She hesitated. Be careful. She hung up before I could ask what she meant. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of my father's request, but because of what saying no might cost me. I pulled out my laptop and opened the document I'd read 100 times. My grandmother Margaret's will. Grandma Margaret was the only teller who'd ever shown me genuine kindness. While my father built his real estate empire with her initial investment, she'd quietly watched how he treated me. On my 25th birthday, she'd pulled me aside and handed me a copy of her will. I'm leaving you $4 million, sweetheart, she'd whispered, her eyes sharp despite her 75 years. But there's a condition. You cannot be estranged from the family when I pass. You must maintain contact, attend family functions. I know it's unfair, but it's the only way to ensure Robert doesn't contest it. $4 million. Enough to pay off my student loans, buy a house, and fully fund the medical consulting company I'd been secretly building. Enough to finally be free. But maintain contact meant enduring every insult, every comparison to Marcus, every reminder that I was the family mistake. Grandma Margaret was 82 now, in a wheelchair but still sharp. Her doctors gave her maybe 2 more years of playing the dutiful, rejected daughter. If I refused my father's request for testing, he'd have grounds to claim estrangement. His lawyers would argue I'd abandoned the family in their time of need. The will's condition would be violated, and the $4 million would default back to the estate, meaning right into Robert's hands. I opened my business bank account on my phone. KT Medical Consulting had $312,000 in revenue this year, but after expenses and taxes, I'd cleared maybe $70,000. Comfortable but not life-changing, not never have to see my father again money. The other risk was my job. Denver Medical Center received $2 million annually from the Teller Foundation, my father's tax write-off disguised as philanthropy. He golfed with James Morrison, the hospital CEO, every Sunday. One phone call from Robert suggesting I was difficult or not a team player, and I'd be unemployed by Monday. I'd seen him do it before. My cousin Sarah had refused to work for Teller Holdings after college. Within a month, she'd lost her job at a competing real estate firm and couldn't get hired anywhere in Denver. She moved to Portland to escape his reach. The final risk was my mother. As pathetic as it sounded, part of me still hoped she'd eventually stand up for me. If I refused to help save my father's life, that hope would die forever. She'd never forgive me for letting him suffer, even if he'd made me suffer for 15 years. $4 million, my job, my mother, my future, all hanging on one medical test. I knew exactly how much damage Robert Teller could do because I'd cataloged it all in spreadsheets, a data analyst's coping mechanism. His network wasn't just impressive, it was suffocating. He served on 3 hospital boards across Colorado, including Denver Medical, where I worked. His foundation didn't just donate $2 million annually to DMC, it funded the new cardiac wing, the pediatric research center, and personally endowed 6 department chairs. My boss's boss's boss owed his position to my father's money. The political connections ran deeper. Senator Patricia Walsh had her campaign headquarters in a Teller Holdings building, rent-free. Judge Raymond Chen, who handled most corporate litigation in Denver, was Marcus's godfather. The mayor attended our family's 4th of July parties and always made sure to thank Robert publicly for his civic contributions. But here's what Robert didn't know. For 3 years, I'd been building my own safety net. KT Medical Consulting existed in the shadows, incorporated in Delaware under a holding company name. My clients didn't know Kiara Teller, the rejected daughter. They knew KT Morrison, the data expert who'd saved Denver Presbyterian $3.2 million by identifying insurance billing errors. I'd been paranoid about keeping it secret. Different phone, separate laptop, even a P.O. box in Aurora for business mail. My website listed no photos, no personal information, just results. 15 healthcare facilities optimized, $8.7 million in recovered revenue for clients, 99.8% accuracy rate in predictive modeling for patient outcomes. The company was my escape plan. Another 2 years, and I'd have enough saved to walk away from everything, the job, the family, even grandma's money if necessary. But 2 years felt like a lifetime when you're drowning. That evening, I called my mentor from Johns Hopkins, Dr. Patricia Reeves. She was the only person who knew about both my family situation and my company. "He's demanding you get tested?" she asked after I explained. "Demanding is a gentle word for it. Kiara, you know you don't owe him anything, right? Biology doesn't create obligation." "I know. But he could destroy everything I've built. One call to CEO Morrison and I'm blacklisted from every hospital in the state. He'll find out about the company somehow. He always does, and then he'll ruin that too." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "What if the test showed you weren't a match? That would solve everything, wouldn't it?" "The odds of that are slim. We have the same blood type, and statistically, there's a 25% chance of being a half match as parent and child, which is usually enough for kidney donation." "Usually," she repeated, "but not always." Something in her tone made me pay attention. "What are you thinking?" "Nothing specific, just make sure you get tested at your hospital by doctors you trust. Medical tests can reveal more than just compatibility sometimes." I didn't understand what she meant then. I would soon enough. If you've ever been treated like the family disappointment while watching a sibling get praised for breathing, you know exactly how this feels. The golden child who could do no wrong versus the scapegoat who could never do right. Hit that subscribe button if you believe everyone deserves respect regardless of their family position, and comment below. Have you ever been the family scapegoat? January 16th, 2024, 10:00 a.m. Sharp. I stood outside my father's corner office at Teller Holdings, 23rd floor of the Republic Plaza building. The receptionist, a new one I didn't recognize, looked at me skeptically. I have an appointment with Robert Teller. She checked her screen. You're not on the calendar. Tell him Kiara is here. Kiara is. Her eyes widened slightly. She knew the name, knew I was the disappointment daughter. One moment. Within seconds, his door opened. Robert Teller stood there in his $5,000 Armani suit, looking thinner than I'd seen him at Thanksgiving. The kidney disease was taking its toll. His skin had a grayish tint, his eyes were puffy, but his voice remained sharp as a blade. You're late. I checked my phone. It's exactly 10 o'clock. Exactly is late. Marcus arrives 15 minutes early. He turned and walked into his office. Come in, shut the door. His office hadn't changed, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Denver, a desk that cost more than most people's cars, and walls covered with photos of him with celebrities and politicians. Not a single photo included me. He didn't offer me a seat. I took one anyway. Let's skip the pleasantries, he said, settling behind his desk. My kidneys are failing. I need a transplant. You're getting tested. Today. I haven't agreed to anything. His laugh was bitter. Agreed? You think this is a negotiation? You live in my city, work at my hospital, exist on my sufferance? You'll get tested because I'm telling you to. And if I'm not compatible? You will be. Same blood type, and you're healthy enough. God knows you don't have the stress of actual success wearing you down. He pulled out his checkbook. I'll even pay you for it. $50,000. Consider it the only inheritance you'll ever see. He wrote the check with sharp, angry strokes and slid it across the desk. There. Payment in advance for doing the bare minimum a daughter should do. It's the least a mistake can do to pay rent for existing. The words hit exactly as intended. 15 years of training had taught me not to flinch, but inside, something finally snapped. Not into anger, into clarity. What if the test shows something unexpected? Like what? He leaned back in his chair. That you're suddenly worth something? The only value you'll ever have is what you can give me. So get tested. Today. That's not a request. I picked up the check, folded it carefully, and put it in my purse. I'll go straight to Denver Medical. Good. And Kiara? His smile was cold. Don't even think about trying to fake the results. I have friends in that lab. I stood to leave, but his voice stopped me at the door. One more thing. Sit back down. I turned, remaining standing. I need to get to the hospital. This will only take a moment. He pulled up something on his computer and turned the screen toward me. It was the LinkedIn page for KT Medical Consulting. My blood went cold. Interesting company, he said, voice casual. Delaware Incorporation, hidden ownership structure. But shell companies are like Russian dolls. You just keep opening them until you find what's inside. He clicked to another screen. My business bank account statements. $312,000 in revenue this year. Impressive for a side hustle. How did you... The same way I know you meet clients at the Marriott downtown every Tuesday. The same way I know you've been using vacation days to attend medical conferences under a different name. He leaned forward. I've known for 6 months, Kiara. I was waiting to see if you'd actually make something of it, or if it would fail like everything else you touch. My mind raced. 6 months. He'd known for 6 months and said nothing. Here's what's going to happen, he continued. You're going to get tested. You're going to be compatible, because we both know you will be. You're going to donate your kidney. And in exchange, I won't make a few calls to your clients about how you've been using Denver Medical's proprietary data for your private consulting. I've never used proprietary data. Everything I analyze is public or provided by clients. You think that matters? When Robert Teller calls hospital CEOs and expresses concerns about data security, do you think they'll investigate or just cut ties to avoid the risk? He smiled. One call to Jim Morrison, and you're not just unemployed, you're unemployable in healthcare. You'd destroy my career to force me to donate an organ? I destroy your career because I can. The kidney is just convenient timing. He stood, walking around the desk to tower over me. You exist because I allow it. Your job, your little company, even that apartment downtown, all of it continues at my discretion. What if I'm not a match? I asked again. Then you're out of the will completely, out of the family, and out of Denver by month's end. He opened his office door. The test, Kiara, today. Dr. Mitchell is expecting you at 2 p.m. Don't disappoint me more than you already have. I walked out without another word, my mind already calculating the next moves. He thought he'd cornered me. He had no idea what that test would actually reveal. I stopped at the elevator and turned back. Robert was still standing in his doorway, watching me with the satisfaction of a predator who'd cornered his prey. I'll take the test, I said, my voice steady. But I have conditions. His eyebrows rose. You have conditions? That's amusing. I want the test done at Denver Medical, in the transplant unit where I work. I want Dr. Sarah Mitchell overseeing it personally. She's the head of nephrology and has no connection to the Teller Foundation. And I want all results documented in the official hospital system, not some back-channel arrangement. Why would I agree to any of that? Because you want to ensure the results are legally bulletproof for insurance and the transplant board. Any irregularities in testing could disqualify you from the transplant list entirely. I'd learned something from analyzing medical data for 3 years. Procedures had to be perfect, or insurance companies would find any excuse to deny coverage. He considered this, his jaw working. Fine, but I want the results within 48 hours. Standard tissue typing and cross-matching takes 3 to 5 days minimum. That's not negotiable. It's biology. Then you get tested today. I already said I would. 2 p.m. with Dr. Mitchell. I pressed the elevator button. One more thing. Marcus should be retested too. Different labs sometimes get different results. Marcus already failed. Different blood type. Blood type is just the first screening. There are cases of successful transplants despite blood type incompatibility. New protocols using plasmapheresis and immunosuppressants. If you're really desperate, you should explore every option. For the first time, I saw uncertainty flicker across his face. You're suggesting Marcus get retested? I'm suggesting you leave no stone unturned. After all, I couldn't resist adding, he's the son you actually wanted. The elevator arrived. As the doors began closing, Robert called out, Kiara? I held the door. Don't think this changes anything between us. You're still a mistake. This just makes you a useful one. I let the doors close on his words. In my purse, the $50,000 check sat folded next to my phone, where I'd already started recording our conversation. Colorado was a one-party consent state for recordings. My father had taught me to be thorough, even if he'd never meant to. Dr. Mitchell was indeed expecting me at 2 p.m. What my father didn't know was that she'd been my mentor's roommate at Johns Hopkins. Patricia had already called her. Sometimes the best revenge isn't planned. Sometimes it's just the truth revealing itself. Dr. Sarah Mitchell was waiting for me in her office when I arrived at Denver Medical at 1:45 p.m. Mid-40s, silver streaking through her dark hair, she had the kind of calm presence that made patients trust her immediately. Kiara, Patricia called me this morning. She gestured for me to sit. She's concerned about you. I'm fine, just need to get this test done. Before we start, I need to ask, are you being coerced into this? I thought about lying, then decided on half-truth. My father is insistent, but I'm curious about the results myself. She studied me for a moment, then pulled up my father's medical records on her computer. I've been reviewing your father's files since he was admitted as a potential transplant recipient. Something's been bothering me. What do you mean? Your father's blood type is listed as O negative in all his records, but there's an inconsistency. She pulled up another screen. I found his military service records from 1988. He was briefly in the reserves. His blood type there is listed as A negative. My heart skipped. That could be a clerical error. That's what I thought. But then I found his insurance records from a surgery in 1995, also A negative. It wasn't until 1997 that his records suddenly show O negative. She looked at me meaningfully. You were born in 1992. Are you saying... I'm saying we should run a comprehensive panel, not just tissue typing for transplant compatibility, but a full DNA workup. With your permission, of course. She paused. I should also tell you that your brother Marcus's results were unusual. Unusual how? I shouldn't have access to them, but he was tested here, and there was a notation in the system. His blood type is B positive. That's genetically impossible if your father is truly O negative. Two O negative parents can't have a B positive child. The implications hung in the air between us. Run every test, I said quietly. Every single one. I'll need to test your father's sample again, too, for verification. I can say it's standard protocol for transplant preparation. She stood. Let's get your blood drawn. And Kiara, whatever we find, you'll have full documentation. I'll make sure of it. Over the next 3 days, I became obsessed with documentation. Every email from Robert, every text from my mother, every voicemail from Marcus, all saved, backed up to 3 different cloud services, and forwarded to my lawyer, Jennifer Huang. Jennifer was one of my consulting clients' recommendations, a former prosecutor who'd switched to family law. She specialized in what she called high-conflict family dynamics with financial implications. This recording from his office is gold, she said, listening to the playback. Clear coercion, threats to your livelihood, and attempted extortion for an organ. If you wanted to press charges, I don't. I just want protection. Then we document everything. I'm filing a formal notice with the hospital's ethics board about the coercion. It won't stop the test, that's already done, but it creates a paper trail if he retaliates. Meanwhile, my business was thriving ironically because of the stress. I'd thrown myself into work, landing a new contract with Swedish Medical Center worth $800,000. The CEO there, Dr. Amanda Foster, had no connection to my father. She'd hired me purely on results. On January 19th, Marcus called me for the first time in 6 months. What did you tell Dr. Mitchell? His voice was strained. Nothing. Why? She wants me to come in for additional testing. Something about anomalies in my initial results. Maybe you should go. Dad's freaking out. He keeps saying the doctors are incompetent, that they're making mistakes. He paused. Kiara, Mom's been acting strange. She's been crying every night since the test started. Won't tell anyone why. Maybe she's worried about Dad. No, it's different. She keeps looking at old photo albums and muttering about choices and consequences. Yesterday, I heard her on the phone with someone, saying they're going to find out over and over. A text came through from Dr. Mitchell. Results are ready. Can you come in tomorrow at 3 p.m.? Bring someone for support if you'd like. I have to go, I told Marcus. Kiara, wait. Whatever happens, I'm sorry. For everything. For all the years I stood by and let him treat you that way. It was the first apology I'd ever received from him. It felt both too late and perfectly timed. The next morning, Marcus called 3 times before I answered. His golden boy composure was completely shattered. Kiara, I need to know what's happening. Mom locked herself in her bedroom and won't come out. I can hear her crying. Maybe you should ask her directly. I tried. She just keeps saying I'm sorry through the door. Dad's at the hospital for dialysis, and when I told him about Mom, he just said she's being dramatic and hung up. I was getting dressed for work, phone on speaker. Marcus, what exactly did Dr. Mitchell tell you about your results? She said there were genetic inconsistencies that require clarification. What does that even mean? It means you should probably sit down with mom and have an honest conversation. About what? I chose my words carefully. About why a B positive son is impossible for an O negative father. The silence lasted so long I thought he'd hung up. Then quietly, that's not possible. It's genetically impossible. That's the point. But I look just like him. Everyone's always said so. Same eyes, same jaw structure, same carefully cultivated mannerisms and expressions you learned from watching him your whole life. Nature versus nurture, Marcus. I heard something crash in the background. He's going to kill her. No, he's not. He's going to do what he always does. Protect his image at all costs, which means keeping this quiet. This can't be happening. I'm the executive vice president of Teller Holdings. I'm supposed to inherit the company. My whole life is built on the same lie mine was, just in reverse. You were the chosen one who wasn't his. I was the rejected one who wasn't his either. You don't know that yet. Your results come in at 3 p.m. today. And Marcus? Mom's not the only one who's been keeping secrets. Ask yourself why Dad's blood type changed in his medical records in 1997. I hung up before he could respond. Through my apartment window, I could see the Denver skyline, the Republic Plaza building, standing tall among the others. Somewhere on the 23rd floor, my father's empire was about to face its reckoning. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Please don't go to the appointment today, please. I'll explain everything if you just give me time. I texted back, you've had 32 years. Then I turned off my phone. Some truths couldn't wait any longer. March 15th, 2024, 2:30 p.m. I stood outside conference room VIP-A on the 12th floor of Denver Medical Center, the executive wing where hospital board meetings were held. Through the glass doors, I could see them gathering, my family's final act playing out in the most public way possible. Robert had orchestrated this himself, insisting the results be presented formally for insurance documentation. He'd arrived in his wheelchair. The dialysis was taking its toll, but dressed in his best suit, every inch the powerful CEO. He'd brought James Morrison, the hospital CEO, as his witness, old golf buddies standing together. Marcus sat rigidly next to him, designer suit impeccable, but his face pale. Helen was beside Marcus, clutching her purse like a life preserver, her usually perfect makeup smudged around the eyes. The extended family had been summoned too. Robert's brother Thomas, a federal judge, his sister Patricia, married to a state senator, two cousins who worked for Teller Holdings, 8 witnesses in total to what Robert assumed would be my forced compliance. But the surprise guest was Grandma Margaret, wheeled in by her private nurse. At 82, she rarely left her care facility, but somehow she'd known to be here today. Kiara! Robert's voice boomed as I entered. Finally, Dr. Mitchell is 5 minutes late. Unacceptable for what I pay this hospital. I took a seat across from him, not next to the family. The separation didn't go unnoticed. I've had Jennifer draw up the donation paperwork, he continued, sliding a folder across the table. Sign it now, and we can schedule the surgery for next week. We should wait for the results first. Formality. We know you're a match. Same blood type, and despite being a disappointment, you're healthy enough. He turned to the others. This is what family does. We take care of each other. Even the least successful among us can contribute something. My cousin Emma, who'd always been kind to me, was recording on her phone. For the family archives, she'd said earlier. I didn't correct her assumption. The door opened. Dr. Mitchell entered with 2 other doctors and a stack of folders. Her face was professionally neutral, but I caught the slight tension in her shoulders. Mr. Teller, thank you for gathering everyone. We need to discuss the test results, and there are some significant findings that will require explanation. Robert waved dismissively. Just tell us when we can schedule the surgery. Dr. Mitchell looked directly at him. I'm afraid that won't be possible. Robert's face darkened. What do you mean, not possible? Fix whatever technical issue you've found. I don't have time for hospital incompetence. There's no technical issue, Mr. Teller. But before we discuss the medical findings, I believe you wanted to say something to your daughter? Dr. Mitchell's tone was professionally neutral, but I caught the edge beneath it. Robert seized the opportunity, standing despite his weakness. This was his stage, his moment to force my compliance in front of witnesses. Yes, actually. He turned to face the room, voice carrying that CEO authority he'd perfected over decades. Family is about sacrifice, about the strong supporting the less fortunate. Kiara has never contributed to this family's success, never earned her place at our table. Helen made a small sound. Marcus stared at the table. But today, Robert continued, she has the chance to finally matter, to transform from a 32-year burden into something useful. A kidney. It's poetic, really. The mistake I made finally serving a purpose. Judge Thomas shifted uncomfortably. Robert, perhaps... No, let me finish. This is important. He turned back to me. You owe me this, Kiara. For every tuition payment, every roof over your head, every opportunity you squandered, this is your chance at redemption. I paid my own tuition, I said quietly. Details. He waved dismissively. The point is, you exist because I allowed it. And now you'll save my life because I demand it. Sign the papers. Emma's phone was still recording. The red light blinked steadily, capturing every word. Stand up, Kiara, Robert commanded. Tell this room that you're grateful for the opportunity to finally contribute to the Teller legacy. Say it. I remained seated. I think we should hear the test results first. The results don't matter. You're O negative, I'm O negative. You're my daughter, unfortunately. You'll match enough for donation. He grabbed the donation papers, shaking them at me. Sign them. Now. Dr. Mitchell cleared her throat. Mr. Teller, I really must insist. After she signs. His voice was ice. I want this documented. The willing donation of a daughter to her father, the least she can do after a lifetime of disappointment. The room was silent except for the soft whir of the air conditioning and Emma's phone recording everything. Mr. Teller, Dr. Mitchell said firmly, Kiara cannot donate her kidney to you. Why not? He snarled. Because she's not your daughter. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. Robert's face went from red to white in seconds. Helen's sharp intake of breath was audible across the room. That's impossible, Robert said, but his voice had lost its commanding tone. Test again. We tested 3 times, Mr. Teller, at 2 independent labs. Dr. Mitchell opened her folder, pulling out official documentation. The DNA analysis shows 0% biological relationship between you and Kiara Teller. 2 other doctors stepped forward. Dr. James Hoffman from the genetics department and Dr. Linda Chang from the laboratory. We supervised each test personally, Dr. Hoffman said. The results are conclusive. James Morrison, the CEO, stood up. Robert, perhaps we should discuss this privately. No! Grandma Margaret's voice cut through the chaos. We'll discuss it right here, right now. I want everything in the open. Robert turned on Helen. What did you do? Helen was shaking, tears streaming down her face, but she remained silent. There's more, Dr. Mitchell said quietly. Everyone turned to her. Mr. Marcus Teller's results show the same outcome, 0% biological relationship to Robert Teller. The room erupted. Judge Thomas stood so fast his chair fell backward. Patricia gasped. The cousins were frantically whispering. Emma's phone captured it all, the red recording light steady as a heartbeat. Marcus looked like he'd been shot. No. There's a mistake. There has to be. No mistake, Dr. Chang confirmed. We ran his sample 5 times due to the unusual blood type discrepancy. B positive is genetically impossible for an O negative father, but the DNA confirms it. Marcus is not Robert Teller's biological son. Both of them? Robert's voice was barely a whisper now. He turned to Helen, who had shrunk into her chair. Both of them? Mr. Teller, please remain calm, Dr. Mitchell said. Your health. My health? He laughed, bitter and broken. My health. My wife has been lying to me for over 30 years. My children aren't mine. My legacy is... He stopped, clutching his chest, breathing hard. We need to get him to cardiac, Dr. Hoffman said urgently. No, Robert gasped. Not until she explains. Helen, you tell me right now, who are their fathers? The room held its breath. Helen slowly raised her head, and for the first time in my life, I saw defiance in her eyes. Does it matter? She said quietly. You never loved them anyway. That moment when a narcissistic parent's plan backfires spectacularly, you can feel it coming, can't you? The tension in that room was so thick, even the lawyers looked nervous. If you've ever witnessed karma deliver instant justice to someone who desperately deserved it, drop a comment with your story. And please hit the like button. It really helps other people find these stories of triumph over toxic families. Dr. Mitchell stepped forward, her voice cutting through the chaos with medical authority. Let me be absolutely clear about the findings. Ms. Kiara Teller cannot donate a kidney to Robert Teller because there is 0% genetic match between them, not 25% as we'd expect for a parent-child relationship. 0. She placed the laboratory reports on the table, sliding copies to James Morrison and Judge Thomas. These results were verified at 3 separate times, January 20th, January 22nd, and again on March 10th. We used 2 independent laboratories, our own and Colorado Genetics Institute. Robert grabbed the papers, his hands shaking. This is wrong. She has my blood type. Blood type can be coincidental, Mr. Teller. Millions of people share O-negative blood, but DNA doesn't lie. Dr. Mitchell pulled up a presentation on the room's screen. The genetic markers show absolutely no relationship. Different mitochondrial DNA, different chromosomal patterns, 0 shared alleles across 15 tested locations. But she looks... Robert trailed off, perhaps realizing for the first time that I looked nothing like him. Dark hair to his light, brown eyes to his blue, my mother's features without any trace of Teller genetics. Who is her father? Judge Thomas demanded, turning to Helen. If Robert isn't, then who? Helen remained silent, but her eyes flickered toward James Morrison, the hospital CEO. He went rigid. No, Morrison said quickly. That's not... We never... Not you, Helen said quietly. Your brother, James's younger brother, David Morrison, the one who died in the car accident in 2010. The room went silent. I felt the world tilt. David Morrison, I'd heard the name. He'd been a doctor here, brilliant but troubled. Died driving drunk on I-70. You had an affair with David Morrison? Robert's voice was deadly quiet. It wasn't an affair. It was one night. You'd been gone for 3 months, setting up the Houston office. You called maybe twice. I was lonely, and David was kind. Helen's voice grew stronger. When I found out I was pregnant, you'd just come back. You assumed Kiara was yours. I let you believe it. Let me believe it? Let me? Robert stood, swaying. For 32 years? You never wanted her anyway, Helen shot back. The moment she was born and wasn't a boy, you lost interest. You called her a mistake from the beginning. What difference did biology make when you'd already rejected her? Emma's phone was still recording. The family archives were getting more than anyone had bargained for. Grandma Margaret spoke into the stunned silence. I always wondered why Kiara was the only one in the family with compassion. Now I know. She didn't inherit the Teller curse. We're not done, Dr. Mitchell said, her voice steady despite the chaos. We need to discuss Marcus's results as well. Marcus, who'd been frozen in shock, suddenly animated. No, we don't. I don't consent to my medical information being shared. You signed a consent form for family disclosure when you were tested, Dr. Mitchell reminded him. You wanted the results shared in case you could donate through the new incompatibility protocols. Robert turned his fury from Helen to Marcus. You knew? You knew? I didn't know anything, Marcus protested. The blood type thing, they said it could be an error. But positive, Dr. Chang interjected clinically. Genetically impossible for an O-negative father and an A-positive mother. The DNA testing confirms Marcus shares 0 genetic markers with Robert Teller. Then who? Robert demanded, turning back to Helen. Who is his father? Helen was sobbing now, but through her tears she found strength. Does it matter? You raised him. You loved him. You gave him everything. Who? I don't know. The admission stunned everyone, even me. Helen, perfect Helen who planned every detail of every dinner party, didn't know? There were 2 possibilities, she whispered. Both from the country club. Both married. Both gone now. One moved to Europe. One died 5 years ago. I never wanted to know which. Marcus was yours in every way that mattered. You shaped him, molded him, made him exactly like you. Except he's not mine, Robert roared. Judge Thomas stood. Robert, you need medical attention. Your color. My color? My color? Robert laughed hysterically. I'm dying. My kidneys are failing. My wife is a whore. My children aren't my children. My legacy is a lie. What color should I be? Mr. Teller, Dr. Mitchell said firmly, your blood pressure is dangerous. We need to get you to— My real name isn't even Teller, Robert said suddenly, the fight leaving him as quickly as it had come. He slumped in his wheelchair. It's Kowalski. I changed it in 1987 to sound less Polish, more established. Everything about the Teller legacy is fake, even the name. The revelation hit Marcus harder than the DNA results. What? Robert Kowalski from Newark, son of a plumber and a seamstress. I invented Robert Teller, just like Helen invented our children. He looked at his mother. Did you know, Mom? Did you know none of it was real? Grandma Margaret's expression didn't change. I've suspected about the children for years. As for your name, Robert, I've known since the day you changed it. I was just waiting to see if you'd ever have the courage to admit it. Helen stood slowly, gripping the table for support. For the first time in my life, she looked Robert directly in the eye when she spoke. You want the truth? Fine. Here's all of it. Her voice was raw but steady. I was 23 when we married. You were 31, already successful, already cold. You married me because I was beautiful and came from a good family, a trophy to display at business dinners. Helen, don't, Marcus started. No, he wanted the truth. He gets it. She turned back to Robert. You were gone more than you were home. Business trips, late meetings, golf weekends. When you were home, you criticized everything. My cooking, my clothes, my opinions. Nothing was ever good enough. The room was riveted. Emma's phone kept recording. When I got pregnant with Marcus, you were thrilled. Finally, an heir. But you were in Tokyo for the conception window. You'd been gone 3 weeks. Tom Brennan from the country club had been attentive, kind. He noticed I was lonely. Tom Brennan? The federal prosecutor? Judge Thomas looked stunned. Or Richard Vale, the investment banker, same time frame. Helen's laugh was bitter. I'm not proud of it, but I was drowning in loneliness and they threw me lifelines. And Kiara? I asked, finding my voice. Helen looked at me with tears streaming. David Morrison was different. He was brilliant, funny, caring, everything Robert wasn't. For one night, I felt alive again. When I found out I was pregnant, I was terrified but also hopeful. Maybe this child would be different. Maybe she'd be happy. Instead, I made her miserable, Robert said quietly. You made us all miserable, Helen corrected. Marcus became you, cold, calculating, cruel. Kiara fought to become herself despite you, and I became a ghost, haunting my own life. 28 years, Robert said. 28 years of lies. 33 years, Helen corrected. I've been lying since our wedding day when I promised to love and honor you. I never loved you, Robert. I loved your money, your status, what you could provide, just like you loved my beauty and breeding. We were both frauds. The only difference is, I produced children who deserved better than us. She looked at me and Marcus. I'm sorry, to both of you. You deserved honest parents, not whatever this was. This is being live streamed, Emma said suddenly, looking at her phone in horror. I accidentally. It's on Facebook, the family page. There are 247 people watching. The final piece of Robert's empire crumbled. His reputation. Robert lunged for Emma's phone, but in his weakened state he merely stumbled forward. Turn it off! Turn it off! I'm trying, Emma fumbled with the phone. It won't. The comments are coming too fast. Oh God, there are over 400 viewers now. Give me that! Robert snatched the phone, but his hands were shaking too badly to operate it. Comments were flooding the screen. Is this real? OMG, the Teller family! Robert had this coming. Those poor kids. Judge Thomas grabbed the phone and managed to end the stream, but the damage was done. It's been recording for 12 minutes, he said grimly. The entire revelation is out there. Robert turned his rage on everyone. You're all cut off. Every single one of you. Marcus, you're fired effective immediately. Clear out your office. Kiara, you were never getting anything anyway, but now I'll make sure you lose your job too. Helen, you'll get nothing in the divorce. Nothing. You seem to forget something, Grandma Margaret said calmly. I own 51% of Teller Holdings. I funded your first 3 projects. My name is on the founding documents. You wouldn't dare. I've already called an emergency board meeting for Monday. We'll be discussing your immediate removal as CEO. She turned to Marcus. You're also terminated, I'm afraid. The nepotism ends now. Marcus looked destroyed. Grandma, I've worked there for 12 years. Based on a lie. Every promotion, every bonus, every opportunity, all based on being Robert's son, which you're not. Her voice was firm but not unkind. It's time you both earned something honestly. Robert stood, swaying dangerously. You can't do this. I built this company. With my money, under my majority control, which I maintain specifically for a day like this. She pulled out her phone. I've just transferred $2 million from your father's emergency fund to Kiara's account. Consider it 32 years of back child support from the family that actually claimed her. I don't want it, I said quietly. Everyone turned to stare at me. I have my own company, KT Medical Consulting. We made $2.3 million in revenue last year. I don't need teller money. I pulled out the $50,000 check Robert had written and placed it on the table. I'm not a mistake. I'm not a disappointment. I'm a successful professional who built something without your name, your money, or your approval. Robert's face went from red to purple to white. You ungrateful! He clutched his chest and collapsed. Call a code, Dr. Mitchell shouted, rushing to Robert's side. Within seconds, the room flooded with medical personnel. They worked on him efficiently, professionally, despite everything they'd just witnessed. As they wheeled Robert out on a gurney, Grandma Margaret remained perfectly composed. She pulled out a folder from her bag. She'd come prepared. While my son is getting medical attention, let's address the immediate concerns. She handed documents to Judge Thomas. Power of attorney, activated in case of Robert's incapacitation. As of this moment, I'm acting CEO of Teller Holdings. You can't just... Marcus started. I can and I am. Thomas, as corporate counsel, please confirm. Judge Thomas reviewed the documents. It's all legal. Margaret has full authority. She turned to Marcus. You have until Monday to clean out your office. Your final check will include standard severance. 2 weeks. Nothing more. Grandma, please. This is my life. Your life was built on a lie. Time to build something true. Her voice softened slightly. You're intelligent, Marcus. You have an MBA from Harvard. You'll land on your feet, just not on the teller name. She turned to Helen. The prenup you signed has a morality clause. Adultery voids it. However, I'm willing to offer you a clean divorce settlement, $1.5 million to walk away quietly. Take it or fight it in court, where this recording will become evidence. Helen nodded numbly. I'll take it. Finally, Grandma Margaret faced me. Kiara, I'm restructuring the will. You'll receive $4 million regardless of family contact requirements. You've maintained contact despite everything. That shows character. I said I don't want. Then donate it, invest it, burn it. I don't care. But you've earned it by being the only genuine person in this family. She wheeled closer to me. Your biological father, David Morrison, was a good man with demons. You got his kindness and your mother's strength. Don't waste either. Dr. Mitchell returned. Robert is stable. He's being admitted to cardiac. The stress triggered a mild arrhythmia, but he'll recover. Good, Margaret said. He'll need his strength for the lawsuits. I imagine several partners will want to renegotiate contracts once this video fully circulates. She looked around the room. This family meeting is concluded. I stood to leave, but something made me turn back one final time. The room was in shambles. Papers scattered, chairs overturned, the mighty Teller family exposed as a carefully constructed fraud. Wait, I said. Everyone looked at me. I want to make something clear. I walked to the presentation screen where my DNA results were still displayed. For 32 years, I believed I was defective, that I was inherently worth less than Marcus, that no matter what I achieved, I would never be enough. My voice grew stronger. But these results don't define me any more than Robert's rejection did. I built my success without the Teller name or money. KT Medical Consulting has 12 employees now. We've saved our clients $8.7 million in recovered revenue. I did that while being called a mistake, a disappointment, a burden. I looked at Marcus, who seemed to have aged 10 years in 10 minutes. You still have the Teller name, even if not the blood. That opens doors I never had access to. Use it wisely. To Helen, I forgive you, not for lying, but for staying. We both know you should have left years ago. To Grandma Margaret, thank you for seeing me when no one else did. I'll accept the money, but it's going into a foundation for healthcare workers escaping abusive families. Finally, I placed my business card on the table. My real name, the one I chose for my company, is KT Morrison. Kiara Teller died today, and honestly, she was never really alive anyway. I picked up the $50,000 check Robert had written and tore it in half, then quarters, letting the pieces fall onto the table. I don't need payment for being his daughter. I was never his daughter, and that's the first thing in my life that actually makes sense. Dr. Mitchell walked out with me. In the hallway, she said quietly, "That was remarkable. That was 32 years overdue." As the elevator doors closed, I saw my reflection in the polished steel. For the first time, I didn't see Robert's disappointment or Helen's guilt. I saw David Morrison's daughter, who saved hospitals millions and built her own empire. I saw myself. Within 48 hours, the livestream video had gone viral. Billionaire real estate mogul discovers neither child is his, read the Denver Post headline. The Business Journal was less kind. Teller empire built on lies. CEO's family fraud exposed in hospital meltdown. Emma, mortified by her accidental live stream, had tried to delete it, but screen recordings were already circulating. The video hit 48,000 views on YouTube, where someone had added subtitles and a dramatic music overlay. Comments ranged from sympathy for us kids to savage satisfaction at Robert's downfall. The business consequences were swift and brutal. 3 major partners pulled out of ongoing deals with Teller Holdings, citing concerns about leadership stability and corporate governance. The Riverside development deal Marcus had been so proud of, canceled within 24 hours, $8 million gone. Robert, from his hospital bed, tried to do damage control. He released a statement through his lawyer. Family medical matters should remain private. This unfortunate incident has no bearing on Teller Holdings' business operations. But the damage was done. The Denver Business Alliance rescinded his Businessman of the Year nomination. The country club where he'd held court for 2 decades quietly suggested he take a leave of absence from the board. Even his golf buddies distanced themselves. Nobody wanted to be associated with the scandal. I watched it all unfold from my apartment, feeling strangely detached. My phone buzzed constantly, reporters wanting statements, colleagues expressing shock, clients asking if I was that teller. I ignored them all except for one email from Swedish Medical's CEO, Dr. Amanda Foster. Kiara, I want you to know that KT Medical Consulting's contract with us remains unchanged. We hired you for your expertise, not your last name. In fact, given your proven ability to maintain professionalism under extreme personal pressure, we'd like to discuss expanding our partnership. The expanded contract she offered was worth $1.2 million annually. My company's value had actually increased because of the scandal. Clients saw me as someone who'd overcome adversity and delivered results regardless. Meanwhile, Robert's medical situation worsened. The stress had damaged his already fragile kidneys further. He was moved up the transplant list due to urgency, but finding a donor would take time. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The man who'd demanded organs from children who weren't even his was now dependent on the kindness of strangers. The Denver Business Journal ran a follow-up piece. From empire to ashes, Teller Holdings stock drops 30% amid family scandal. They'd interviewed former employees who spoke about Robert's tyrannical management style and nepotistic practices. Marcus was specifically mentioned as unqualified for his position, promoted solely due to perceived family connections. Grandma Margaret, true to her word, had called an emergency board meeting. The vote was unanimous. Robert was removed as CEO, effective immediately. Marcus's fall was perhaps harder than Robert's. Within a week of being fired from Teller Holdings, his entire identity crumbled. The man who'd been groomed since birth to inherit an empire discovered he had no claim to it whatsoever. He sent me an email on March 22nd. Kiara, I don't know how to do this. I've never apologized for anything real before. I'm sorry for every time I stood by while he destroyed you. I'm sorry for laughing when he called you a mistake. I'm sorry for believing I was better than you just because he said so. The truth is, you were always the strong one. You built something real while I was playing pretend CEO with Daddy's money and connections. I'm seeing a therapist now, Dr. Jennifer Watts. She says I need to figure out who I am without the teller name. 35 years old and I don't know who I am. I'm also looking for my biological father. Mom says it's either Tom Brennan or Richard Vale. Brennan died 5 years ago, but Vale is living in Switzerland. I've reached out to him. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know, Marcus. I didn't respond immediately. 32 years of pain couldn't be erased with one email, no matter how sincere. Helen filed for divorce on March 20th. She didn't contest anything, accepting Grandma Margaret's settlement offer of $1.5 million. She moved out of the Cherry Hills mansion and into a modest condo in Washington Park. She called me once, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. I know you hate me. I don't hate you, I said honestly. I nothing you. You were never really there enough to hate. I deserve that. She paused. I'm in therapy too. Dr. Rosenberg says I have something called learned helplessness. 28 years of emotional abuse from Robert, apparently. Not an excuse, just an explanation. What are you going to do now? I don't know. I'm 56 years old and I've never had a job, never had my own bank account until last week, but I'm taking classes at DU. Maybe accounting. I was good at math before Robert convinced me I wasn't good at anything. Mom, I said, and she gasped at the word. I hadn't called her that in years. It's not too late to become someone real. Is that what you did? Became someone real? I'm trying, every day. Marcus eventually found a job at a small investment firm in Boulder. No executive position, just a regular analyst role. His starting salary was $75,000. less than what he used to spend on cars annually. He sold his Porsche and bought a Honda Civic. Helen started volunteering at a women's shelter, teaching financial literacy to abused survivors. Ironic, perhaps, but she said it helped her understand her own story. Neither of them were invited to my company's anniversary gala, but they were both finally becoming people instead of props in Robert's empire. By May 2024, my life had transformed completely. KT Medical Consulting moved into proper offices in the Denver Tech Center, 8,000 square feet with mountain views. We'd grown to 18 employees, and I'd promoted my best analyst, Maria Santos, to vice president. The viral video, rather than destroying my reputation, had become my inadvertent marketing campaign. Healthcare executives reached out, seeing me as someone who understood dysfunction and could fix it. 3 new hospital systems signed contracts, bringing our annual revenue projection to $3.8 million. I started therapy with Dr. Patricia Chen, working through 32 years of trauma. You developed remarkable resilience, she told me, but resilience born from trauma isn't the same as healing. She was right. I'd learned to survive Robert's cruelty, but I'd never learned to thrive without it as a driving force. Every achievement had been a silent fuck you to him. Now that he was gone from my life, I had to find new motivations. Grandma Margaret and I developed an unexpected relationship. She invited me to lunch monthly at the Brown Palace Hotel, where she'd held court for decades. You know, she said over afternoon tea in April, I never liked Robert much. My own son, and I didn't like him. Why did you enable him for so long? Because I thought Marcus would balance him out. A grandchild with Teller blood, but perhaps Helen's gentleness. She sighed. Instead, Robert created a clone. Marcus became everything I'd hoped he wouldn't. And me? You were a pleasant surprise. No Teller blood, but more Teller spine than any of them. She smiled. Your father, David Morrison, I knew him. He used to play piano at hospital fundraisers. Brilliant doctor, troubled soul. You got the brilliance without the demons. How do you know I don't have demons? Oh, you have them, but you make them work for you instead of against you. That's the difference. The $4 million from her arrived in my account on April 1st. I immediately transferred it to the newly established Morrison Foundation for Healthcare Heroes. Our first initiative, providing free therapy and career coaching to healthcare workers escaping toxic family situations. The foundation's first recipient was a young nurse named Jennifer, whose parents had disowned her for refusing to give them her entire salary. Watching her face when we covered her therapy costs and helped her find housing, that was worth more than any business deal. Robert, meanwhile, remained in the hospital. He'd found a donor match from the National Registry, a teacher from Iowa who'd never heard of the Teller scandal. The transplant was scheduled for June. I felt nothing about it. No anger, no satisfaction, just nothing. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference, and I'd finally achieved it. On July 4th, 2024, I received a letter from Robert, handwritten from his hospital bed, post-transplant. Kiara, the kidney is working. I'm going to live. I've had time to think. I was wrong about everything. You weren't the mistake. I was. I want to make amends. Please visit me. Robert. I read it twice, then filed it with the other 327 pieces of correspondence from him. No response, no visit, no contact. Marcus texted me that same day. He wrote to me too. Are you going to see him? No, you? I went once. He spent the whole time talking about rebuilding the company, wanting me back. He hasn't changed. He just wants his empire back. And you? I'm good where I am. My boss doesn't know I'm a teller. I'm just Marcus K now. It's freeing. The Morrison Foundation had grown faster than expected. We'd helped 43 healthcare workers in 3 months. The stories were heartbreakingly similar. Talented professionals whose families saw them as ATMs, not people. We provided therapy, legal assistance, career coaching, and emergency housing when needed. At our first fundraising gala in September, held at the Four Seasons, I stood before 200 donors and told my story publicly for the first time. Blood doesn't make family, I said. looking out at the crowd. Respect does, love does, shared values do. But DNA? That's just biology. I spent 32 years believing I was defective because someone who happened to share a house with me said so. How many of you have been told you're not enough? That your achievements don't matter? That your worth is determined by someone else's standards? Hands raised throughout the room. Too many hands. The Morrison Foundation exists because healthcare heroes, the people who save lives daily, deserve to live free from toxic family dynamics. They deserve boundaries. They deserve peace. They deserve to be valued for who they are, not what they can provide. The foundation raised $2.3 million that night. Grandma Margaret personally contributed $500,000, telling the crowd, "I'm investing in the granddaughter I chose, not the one I was given." As I left the gala, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, then saw the message. "Ms. Morrison, I'm David Morrison's sister, your biological aunt. I've been following your story. He would have been so proud. If you ever want to know about him, the real him, not the tragedy, I'm here. Susan Morrison Blake." I saved the number. Maybe someday I'd call, maybe not. But for the first time, I had choices about family that were actually mine to make. Success isn't the best revenge. Peace is. And I'd finally found it. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone in dealing with toxic family dynamics. Your worth isn't determined by how your family treats you, it's determined by how you treat yourself. Comment below with your thoughts, and remember, sometimes the best family is the one you choose, not the one you're born into. What boundaries have you set with toxic relatives?